Myers-Briggs test was published in 1943. The Big Five personality model came in the 1980s. We talk about them like they are the gold standard of understanding human behavior. But here is the part nobody tells you. The core ideas behind every major personality framework in use today were figured out thousands of years ago by people who did not have universities, laboratories, or peer-reviewed journals. And in some ways, they got closer to the truth than we did. Here is what I want you to sit with as we go through this. If ancient cultures were already mapping human behavior with startling accuracy, what does that say about modern psychology's claim to have invented self-understanding? Hold that question, because by the end of this, the answer is going to change how you see both the ancient world and yourself. Long before anyone coined the word psychology, a Greek physician named Hippocrates sat down and tried to answer a question that still keeps researchers busy today. Why do different people respond to the same situation in completely different ways? His answer was the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Each one, he argued, produced a distinct personality type. The sanguine person, driven by blood, was optimistic, social, and energetic. The phlegmatic type, cold and slow like phlegm, was calm, reliable, and a little hard to read. The choleric person, hot and fiery like yellow bile, was ambitious, impulsive, and difficult to argue with. And the melancholic, marked by black bile, was deep-thinking, sensitive, and prone to overthinking everything. Sound familiar? Because the sanguine maps almost perfectly to the MBTI extrovert. The melancholic is basically a textbook introvert. The choleric is what modern frameworks call a type A personality. The phlegmatic is what organizational psychologists now call a high agreeableness individual. Hippocrates did not have a survey or a statistical model. He had observation, thousands of patients, and an honest attempt to find patterns in human behavior. He was doing personality science. He just did not call it that. But here is where things get interesting, because the Greeks were not even the first ones doing this. Most people hear the word astrology and immediately think of vague horoscope columns in a magazine. That is a modern corruption of something that was, for centuries, treated as a serious system for understanding human temperament. And before you dismiss it, consider what astrologers were actually trying to do. In ancient Babylon, Persia, and later in Hellenistic Greece, astrology was not really about predicting the future. It was about categorizing people. The idea was that the conditions at the moment of your birth, the position, the season, the dominant celestial energy, shaped the kind of person you would be. Fire signs were associated with drive, aggression, and leadership. Water signs with emotional sensitivity and intuition. Earth signs with practicality and persistence. Air signs with communication, ideas, and adaptability. Now look at how modern psychology carves up the same territory. The Big Five model talks about openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The elemental categories in astrology are doing something remarkably similar. They are grouping observable behavioral tendencies into clusters. The mechanism they use to explain it, planetary influence, is not something modern science accepts. But the underlying project, mapping the range of human personality into a manageable system, is identical to what psychologists are doing right now with validated questionnaires. Ancient astrologers were not mystics making things up, they were pattern recognizers working with the tools they had, and that distinction matters. Here is something that gets left out of most psychology textbooks. When Carl Jung introduced the concept of archetypes in the early 20th century, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the trickster, he was not presenting new ideas. He was documenting patterns he found by studying ancient mythology, religious texts, and cultural stories from civilizations that had never made contact with each other. And he kept finding the same characters, the same psychological templates showing up in Greek myths, Hindu scriptures, African folklore, and indigenous American stories. His conclusion was that these were not coincidences. They were maps of the human psyche that human beings had been drawing, independently, for thousands of years. The hero archetype is not just Achilles or Hercules. It's the part of every person that rises to meet a challenge. The shadow is not a villain in a story. It is the part of yourself you are afraid to look at. The trickster is not just Loki or Anansi. It is the disruptive, chaos-generating part of the human mind. Ancient storytellers were not writing entertainment, they were writing psychology. Every myth was a map of an inner experience. And the fact that these same maps emerged in cultures separated by oceans and centuries tells you something important. Human behavior does not change. It never has. We just keep finding new words for the same patterns. Now this next part might surprise you, because it is where the ancient systems start to look almost eerily modern. About 3,000 years ago in ancient India, the Ayurvedic tradition developed a system of 3 constitutional types called doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Each one described not just a body type, but a complete psychological profile. Vata individuals were creative, quick-thinking, anxious, and prone to scattered energy. Pitta types were intense, goal-driven, sharp-minded, and easily frustrated. Kapha types were steady, nurturing, slow to change, and grounded. What is remarkable is that the Ayurvedic system explicitly connected physical constitution with mental and emotional patterns. That connection, that the body and personality are not separate systems, was considered radical when psychologists and neuroscientists started publishing papers on it in the late 20th century. We now know that cortisol levels affect mood, that gut health influences anxiety, that hormonal profiles shape personality tendencies. Ayurveda knew this directionally thousands of years before we had the biology to explain it. It was not magic. It was sophisticated clinical observation over long periods of time, organized into a teachable system. The same thing a modern psychiatrist does when they study a patient. The tools were different. The intention was the same. Traditional Chinese physiognomy, the practice of reading character from facial features, sounds on the surface, like the kind of thing you would dismiss instantly. But when you look at what the underlying theory was actually claiming, it gets more interesting. The idea was that the patterns of how a person's body developed, the structure of their face, the set of their jaw, the depth of their eye sockets, reflected the same energetic tendencies that shaped their behavior. Strong brows indicated decisiveness, a wide jaw suggested stubbornness and endurance. Deep-set eyes were associated with introspection. Modern research on physiognomy is more nuanced than you might expect. Studies have found weak but real correlations between certain facial features and personality traits, likely because both are downstream of shared hormonal and genetic factors. Testosterone levels, for instance, influence both facial bone structure and tendencies toward aggression and dominance. The ancient Chinese practitioners did not know about testosterone, but they noticed the correlation, and they built a system around it. The mechanism they proposed was wrong. The observation that there was something there was not. When you lay all of these systems side by side, Greek humors, astrological temperaments, Jungian archetypes, Ayurvedic doshas, Chinese physiognomy, something becomes obvious. They are all, at their core, doing the same thing. They are all trying to answer the question, why does this person behave differently from that person, and what can we predict about them based on that? That is the same question driving every personality model in existence today. The difference is methodology. Modern psychology uses statistics, controlled studies, and reproducible measurements. Ancient systems used observation, pattern recognition, and cultural transmission. One is more rigorous. That does not make the other worthless. Because what the ancients had that modern researchers often lack was time. Multi-generational clinical-scale observation of human beings across entire lifespans. The 4 humors were not invented by one person on one afternoon. They were refined across centuries of physicians watching patients and asking why. So why does this matter? Because when a modern person writes off astrology as nonsense or dismisses the doshas as pre-scientific superstition, they are not just being arrogant. They are cutting themselves off from thousands of years of accumulated insight about human nature. Here is the thing that almost never gets said plainly. The Big Five personality model, considered the most empirically valid framework in modern psychology, describes the same behavioral terrain as the 4 humors. The Myers-Briggs, despite its scientific criticisms, draws directly from Carl Jung's archetype work, which drew directly from ancient mythological systems. Attachment theory, which describes how early relational experiences shape adult behavior, has direct parallels in ancient philosophical traditions from Stoicism to Buddhism. The cognitive distortions identified in cognitive behavioral therapy, catastrophizing, black and white thinking, emotional reasoning, were cataloged and named by Stoic philosophers in the 1st century. Modern psychology did not discover human behavior. It built better instruments for measuring something people have been studying for millennia. And the ancient systems, imperfect as they were, got remarkably far with remarkably little. Every system we covered today, the humors, the archetypes, the doshas, the astrological temperaments, shared one assumption, that human beings are not random, that there are patterns. That understanding those patterns is not just intellectually interesting, but practically useful. Knowing your temperament helps you understand your reactions. Knowing your archetype helps you recognize your recurring life themes. Knowing your elemental tendencies helps anticipate where you will struggle and where you will thrive. That is what the ancient systems were for, not fortune-telling, Not mysticism for its own sake, self-knowledge as a practical tool. And self-knowledge, it turns out, has never gone out of fashion. It has just changed its vocabulary. Here is the answer to the question I planted at the beginning. Modern psychology did not invent self-understanding, it inherited it, cleaned it up, put it in a journal and ran the numbers. But the fundamental insight that human beings come in recognizable types, that our behaviors follow patterns, that understanding those patterns changes how we live, that was not a 20th century breakthrough. It was a human one, and it is thousands of years old. The ancients were doing personality science without the name, without the institutions, without the tools, and they built frameworks durable enough that we are still, knowingly or not, using them today. If this made you see ancient wisdom differently, the next video on how Stoicism maps to modern cognitive therapy is going to land even harder. Drop a like if you want more content like this, and subscribe if you are new here. There is a lot more ground to cover.